Hello and welcome to Med Simplified. My name is Dr. Umar Malik, and in this video I will tell you about top 10 health benefits of flax seeds. For centuries, flax seeds have been prized for their health protective properties. In fact, going back to the 8th century, King Charles the Great ordered his subjects to eat flax seeds to improve their health. So it's no wonder that flax seeds were given the name Linum usitasimum. Now, 13 centuries later, some experts say we have preliminary research to back up what Charles the Great suspected. Flax seeds are glossy brown in color and are shaped like an apple pip, which is about 4 to 7 millimeters long. The earliest evidence of humans using wild flax was in the form of textiles. Spun, dyed, and knotted wild flax fibers were found in caves currently situated in present-day Republic of Georgia. Scientists estimate that these fibers were dated to more than 10,000 years ago. Today, flaxseed is found in all kinds of foods, ranging from crackers to waffles to oatmeal. Flax seeds are emerging as a superfood as more scientific research points to their health benefits. So, here are 10 health benefits of flax seeds that are backed by science. Number 1. Flax seeds are loaded with nutrients. Flax has been grown since the beginning of civilization and is one of the oldest crops. There are two types of flax seeds, brown and golden, which are equally nutritious. A typical serving size for grounded flax seeds is 1 tablespoon, which is about 7 grams. Just 1 tablespoon provides a good amount of protein, fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids, in addition to being a rich source of some key vitamins and minerals. Just to look at how nutritious these seeds are, 1 tablespoon of flax seeds contains 37 calories, 1.3 grams of protein, 2 grams of carbs, and 1.9 grams of fiber. It also contains 3 grams of fat, which includes 1600 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. It contains some important vitamins like vitamin B1 and vitamin B6 and folate. It also contains very important minerals like calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium. Interestingly, flax seeds' health benefits are mainly attributed to the presence of omega-3 fatty acids, lignans, and the fiber present in them. Now let's talk about the second important health benefit of flax seeds, which is the presence of high amounts of omega-3 fats in them. Flax seeds are a rich source of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, which is plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. ALA is one of the 2 essential fatty acids that you have to obtain from the food you eat, as your body doesn't produce them. Animal studies have shown that the ALA in flax seeds prevented cholesterol from being deposited in the blood vessels of the heart, reduced inflammation in the arteries, and reduced tumor growth. A Costa Rican study involving 3,638 people found that those who ate more ALA had a lower risk of heart attack than those who consumed less amount of ALA. Also, a large review of 27 studies involving more than 250,000 people found that ALA was linked to a 14% lower risk of heart attacks. Numerous studies have also linked ALA to a lower risk of stroke. So if you're a vegetarian or you don't eat fish, flax seeds can be your best source of omega-3 fats and ALA. It will not only boost your heart health, but will also prevent chronic damage to your blood vessels from toxins, prevent stroke and tumor growth. Number 3. Flax seeds are a rich source of lignans, which may reduce cancer risk. Lignans are plant compounds that have antioxidant and estrogenic properties, both of which can help lower the risk of cancer and improve health. Interestingly, flax seeds are one of the richest sources of lignans and contains up to 800 times more lignans than other plant foods. Observational studies show that those who eat flax seeds have a lower risk of breast cancer, particularly in females beyond 50 or those who are postmenopausal. Additionally, according to a Canadian study involving more than 6,000 females, those who ate flax seeds were 18% less likely to develop breast cancer. Men can also benefit from eating flax seeds. In a small study, men who were given 30 grams of flax seeds a day while following a low-fat diet, showed reduced levels of a prostate cancer marker, suggesting a lower risk of prostate cancer. Flax seeds have appeared to have the potential to prevent colon and skin cancer in labs and animal studies, yet more research is needed to confirm this. Nevertheless, the evidence thus far points to flax seeds being a potentially valuable food in the fight against various cancers. Number 4. Flax seeds are rich in dietary fiber. Just 1 tablespoon of flax seeds contains 3 grams of fiber, which is 8 to 12% of the daily recommended intake. Flax seeds contain 2 types of dietary fiber: soluble dietary fiber and insoluble dietary fiber. The fiber gets fermented by the bacteria in the large bowel. This bulks up the stools and results in more regular bowel movements. On one hand, the soluble fiber increases the consistency of the contents of your intestine and slows down the digestion rate. This has been shown to definitely help in regulating blood sugar levels and decreasing cholesterol levels. Similarly, on the other hand, the insoluble fiber allows more water to bind to the stools, which increases their bulk and results in softer stools. This is especially useful for preventing constipation and relieves symptoms for those who suffer from irritable bowel syndrome or diverticular disease. Number 5th health benefit of flax seeds is that they help to lower blood cholesterol levels. In one study, people with high blood cholesterol levels were selected, and half of the people were given 30 grams of flaxseed powder daily for 3 months. When compared to the ones who didn't consume flaxseed powder, their total cholesterol levels lowered by 17% and bad LDL cholesterol levels lowered by almost 20%. In another study of people with diabetes, researchers found that taking 10 grams of flaxseed powder daily for 1 month resulted in a 12% increase in good HDL cholesterol levels. These effects appear to be due to the fiber present in flax seeds, as it binds to the bile salts and is then excreted by the body. To replenish these bile salts, cholesterol is pulled from your blood into your liver. This process eventually lowers your blood cholesterol levels. Number 6. Flax seeds may help to lower blood pressure levels. Studies on flax seeds have also focused on its natural ability to lower blood pressure. A Canadian study found that eating 30 grams of flax seeds daily for 6 months lowered systolic and diastolic blood pressure by 10 mm and 7 mm of mercury respectively. For those who are already taking blood pressure medication, flax seeds lowered blood pressure even further. It was also seen that regular flax seed consumption decreased the number of patients with uncontrolled high blood pressure levels by more than 17%. Furthermore, according to a large review that looked at data from 11 studies, revealed that taking flax seeds daily for more than 3 months lowered blood pressure levels by 2 mm mercury. You may feel that this 2 mm mercury fall is insignificant, but a 2 mm mercury reduction in blood pressure can lower the risk of dying from stroke by 10% and from heart disease by more than 7%. Number 7. Flax seeds contain high quality protein. Flax seeds are a great source of plant-based protein, and there is growing interest in flaxseed protein and its health benefits. Flaxseed protein is rich in amino acids such as arginine, aspartic acid, and glutamic acid. Numerous lab and animal studies have shown that flaxseed protein helped to improve immune function, lowered cholesterol, prevented tumors, and had antifungal properties also. If you are considering cutting back on meat and worried that you will go hungry, flax seeds may be just your answer. In fact, in one study, 21 adults were given an animal protein or plant protein meal. The study found no difference in terms of appetite, satiety, or food intake noted between the two meals. The likely explanation is that both the animal and plant protein meals stimulate hormones in the gut to bring about the feeling of fullness, which eventually results in eating less, also known as early satiety. Number 8. Flax seeds can also help to control blood sugar levels. Type 2 diabetes is a major health problem worldwide. Millions of people are suffering from uncontrolled sugar levels and eventual complications that develop. Type 2 diabetes is characterized by high blood sugar levels as a result of either the body's inability to secrete insulin or the body becoming resistant to it. A few studies have found that people with type 2 diabetes who added 10 to 20 grams of flaxseed powder to their daily diet for at least 1 month saw reductions of 8 to 20% in their blood sugar levels. This blood sugar lowering effect is notably due to the flax seeds' insoluble fiber content. Researchers have found that insoluble fiber slows down the release of sugar into the blood and reduces blood sugar levels. However, one study found no change in blood sugar levels or any improvement in diabetes management. Even though more research is still needed and results are confusing, flax seeds can be a beneficial and nutritious addition to the diet of people with diabetes. If you'd like to know more about the best diet for diabetes, click the banner above to watch our video. I will also provide a link in the description box down below. Number 9th health benefit of flaxseed is that they can decrease hunger, which can aid in weight control. Now, if you have the tendency to snack between meals, you should consider trying flax seeds, as they are great for munching and are very effective in reducing hunger pangs. One study found that adding 2.5 grams of flax fiber extract to a beverage reduced the feelings of hunger and overall appetite. The feelings of reduced hunger were likely due to the soluble fiber content of flax seeds. The fiber in flax seeds slows digestion in the stomach, which triggers a host of hormones that control appetite and provide a feeling of fullness. Flax seeds' dietary fiber can help in weight control by suppressing hunger and increasing the feelings of fullness. This is especially useful in diabetic and hypertensive patients who are actively trying to lose weight by controlling their appetite naturally. Number 10. Flax seeds are a versatile ingredient. Flax seeds or flaxseed oil can be added to many common foods. You can try the following methods to make the most out of flax seeds. Adding them to water and drinking it as a part of your daily fluid intake. Drizzling flaxseed oil as a dressing on salad. Sprinkling grounded flax seeds over your breakfast cereal. Mixing them into your favorite yogurt. Adding them into cookies, muffins, breads, or other batters. Mixing them into smoothies to thicken up the consistency. And incorporating them into meat patties. Remember to always opt for grounded flax seeds as they are easier to digest. Whole flax seeds are not useful because your intestines cannot break down the tough outer shell of the seeds. That being said, you can still buy whole flax seeds, grind them in a coffee grinder, and store the grounded flax seeds in an airtight container. With many proven health benefits and possibly more, there is no better time than now to grab some flax seeds from your local grocery store, or you can also buy them online by clicking the links in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching this video and I hope you liked it. To support us, become a member of our Med Simplified YouTube channel or support us via Patreon. Do comment below about any feedback you would like us to know. So friends, take care and see you in our next video.